Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Kurt from Field Burn Hot Sauce. So today, what I'm going to be talking about is transplanting peppers. So what I've got here, let me pull one of these trays out. Is I've got a bunch of pepper plants here. Okay, so these just happen to be jalapenos, and as you can see, they're getting pretty big, right? So we're going to run into some overcrowding and stuff here pretty soon. Let me see if I have any that aren't doing as good. Yeah, there's some littler ones in some of these other trays. So like right here, you see we've got some of these smaller ones. These ones they could be transplanted because they've got more than 2 leaves on them, right? The sort of general rule of thumb is you want 4, 5, 6 leaves before you start transplanting things. Sometimes we wait until they're bigger, but we use a multi-sowing um, seed technique where we put multiple seeds into these trays in order to make sure that we have a lot of peppers that are going to grow, right, different plants and stuff. So what I'm going to be doing this week essentially is I've got a lot of transplanting to do. I've got jalapenos to transplant, and then I've got some dragon's breath, some ghost peppers, some Carolina reapers, and different things that they're starting to look pretty good and need transplanted, because once we transplant them, that's when they really start growing. That's when they really start taking off, is once you start putting them into those bigger homes. So what I've got here is I've got this container. Okay, so these containers, you can get them at any store like Walmart, Myers, Target, any kind of place. They're just plastic, um, Sterilite, I think is the brand maybe of these containers, and they're clear. So one of the things that I want to talk about here is we've got clear cups, right? So we reuse these cups every season to put our peppers and stuff in there. But the thing with the clear cups is there's some good and there's some bad about them, right? So the good things about them is once we transplant our peppers and put them into these, we're able to see the roots, see how they're growing, see what's going on and all that kind of stuff. So that's really helpful for us. But the bad thing is if too much light hits these, right? So if we plant something in it and we set it out, and with all the light that's coming in from our greenhouse and it's hitting it, what's going to happen is there's going to be fungus and mold and stuff that's going to grow in there because of all the light hitting it. So what we did to sort of try to get away from all that kind of stuff happening is these clear totes that we had, we've just kind of painted them different colors. You know, we had some spray paint and stuff in the garage that we just took and, you know, spray painted. We've got some black ones, some red ones, some silver ones, I think, whatever, you know, kind of stuff we had laying around. But what we do is we fill all these cups with dirt, we put them in the tray, and then to transplant, it's pretty simple, right? So I poke a hole down in the dirt, you know, just using your finger, and then I look for one of the peppers that look good, right? One of the pepper plants that I think is particularly strong, is healthy. You know, there's a few of them in this tray together, and then what you do when you transplant is you just kind of grab it down at the base as low as you can get it, and you just kind of slowly pull up, right? So when you slowly pull it up, you can see here that we've got a pretty good root, right? We've got multiple roots and stuff in here. This one's really long, right? Sometimes when we let them in there for too long, we get a bunch, and then they start to tangle themselves together once we have multiple of them in the same pot. So I poke a hole down in the dirt. I make sure that I cover the roots up, and boom, it's done, right? So pretty simple. All of these, I'm not ready to move them yet. Some of these here, they would be okay to move, but I'm really right now looking for the strongest plants, the ones that I think are going to be the best move, that I think are going to be growing a lot faster than some of the other ones. Um, you know, just trying to give some of these other ones a little bit more room. You know, again, you just kind of pull these out softly, right? So that way you don't rip any of the roots off. Sometimes if you're too forceful with them, right, you can damage the plants. Usually at this stage though, if you lose some of the roots on there, it's not going to be the end of the world. They'll probably still grow, right, as long as you've got the correct conditions and stuff for them to grow. You know, and then when I'm doing this, again, I kind of look for the pepper plants that I think are going to be the best, the ones that look the strongest, that look the healthiest. You know, bigger ones that are in here to try to give them a head start. Jalapenos are one of the fastest growing pepper plants, so if you're interested in growing plants from seedling, um, jalapenos grow really quickly. See, there's a lot of really big ones in here again as well. So just trying to give some of these some space, some of the ones that there's multiple ones in the same pot. One tip that I want to kind of mention too, when you're doing this, you want to make sure that the dirt in the trays is damp. If it's dry, right, so like if they need watered, it's better to water them, let that water soak in for a little bit. These happen to be pretty good right now. They're not dry, but one of these trays in the back, I don't know if you can see the dirt in there, but the dirt in this back tray is really dry. So these here, I would say, aren't ready to transplant yet. They could be because they've got multiple leaves on them, but I'd like to let them get a little bit bigger, right? This other one here, this is just kind of started. This seedling must have just popped. There's another one kind of, I thought there was another one coming out of the dirt, but these ones here you leave alone with just 2 leaves, right? Anything that's got 4, 5, 6 more leaves, those are the ones you transplant. But when the soil is dry, don't try to take them out because you're going to end up damaging the roots, and then the pepper plant is probably going to die, right? So, you know, again, I'm just looking for some of the ones that I think are going to be good, good growers. You just grab them from the base and pull them up slowly, stick them in the dirt. After we've done this, you know, after we've transplanted a bunch of these, then of course the next step is watering. So I'm going to get to work transplanting these stuff. I'll fast forward through these parts of the video, and then I'll kind of show you the watering and stuff as I'm done with this. Okay, so now that I've got the pepper plants transplanted, what I went ahead and I put some tape on here and I labeled them. So the first 2 that I did were jalapenos. The second ones I did some dragon's breath here and I did some reapers. So it's really important that we label our pepper plants because we grow 15 to 20 different varieties usually every year, and we like to try to keep them separated because it's important to keep peppers separated. If you don't, what happens is you get cross-pollination. So cross-pollination, it doesn't do anything to damage the peppers that grow that year, but the seeds of the next year won't be the same seeds as the previous year. So, for example, if the dragon's breath and the reapers, if they're right next to each other in the garden, and a bee or something lands on one of the reapers and it flies over to the dragon's breath leaf afterwards, what happens then is you get cross-pollination. So the next year, if we take the seeds from that pepper that was on the dragon's breath plant, it'll be a cross between the dragon's breath and the reaper. Okay, so sometimes this is a good thing because sometimes then you get hotter pepper plants, you know, but sometimes you get unintentional crosses where maybe if something lands on one of the jalapenos and then it flies to the dragon's breath, you might get some funky looking peppers and stuff, right, the next season. So we try to keep our peppers separated. We've got 3 different gardens that we grow in, so we try to put everything in the same kind of areas, right? So dragon's breath will be in one area, reapers in another area, you know, jalapenos over here, habaneros, all the different kinds of peppers. So we like to try to keep them separated. So we label everything so that way we know what we've got. You know, it makes it a lot easier on us to do all that kind of stuff. So I went ahead and I put all these in here, and then I watered them. Right? I did a light misting on all these pepper plants. I may have to come back and lightly mist them again later tonight, depending upon how it looks when I come back out in the greenhouse later. But you want to make sure that you get them moist so that way the peppers can start acclimating to the new soil, right? So that way those roots can start to form, so they can kind of start to grow and start doing some of the things you want them to do. The same thing with the trays that you pulled the peppers from, is you want to go ahead and water those again as well, because if not, then some of those peppers could dry out and some of the seeds that still haven't popped up aren't going to germinate, or some of the peppers that were next to each other, right, they need to have some moisture back in the soil so that way those roots can sort of get used to the new area that they're in, right? So watering is really important, checking to make sure that you don't do too much or too little watering is always an important thing. You know, I also hooked up the grow light above. You probably can't see it because it's a little bit brighter out here now, but I've got the grow light hooked up above, and then there's one below as well. So at nighttime is when you really start to notice this. In the daytime, you can't see all the light that it's emitting because there's other light around you. But at nighttime, when you come out to the greenhouse, it glows. I imagine from the International Space Station, they can probably see it as well. Well, maybe not the International Space Station, but people that drive by our house, they see the grow lights going on. You know, people are always curious, you know, to see all that kind of stuff. You know, we love talking about our greenhouse, talking about growing peppers and stuff. One of the cool things that I want to mention real quick, and there's actually one right above me here. So I like to use a lot of smart plugs. This just happens to be one of the smart plugs that we're using. I can control all these with my Alexa app. So if I'm out here, I can have it turn things off and on, depending upon if it needs more or less light. I can do it from my phone. If I'm someplace, I can monitor the temperature in the greenhouse. So there's a lot of different things that that smart technology allows us to do to help us to grow things more efficiently, to help us keep track of all this stuff a little bit better too. But if you like the content, like and subscribe. You can follow us on social media. We post a lot of different things on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And thank you guys all for watching.